Welcome back to Patroma Therapy. Today we're going to talk about how everything you know is wrong. How does that make you feel?
I don't know how you've come up with such a title. I've given it much thought and still couldn't give an answer.
That's the correct answer.
Thank you. As
Well,
flattened as I am,
as
but
what? I thought you said Slaven.
flattened.
Flattened. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, I sometimes like to flatten people.
Flattered. What's the word?
Oh, I thought you
Flattered.
said flat. Oh, flattered. You're flattered.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
I am.
You're flattered. I
First I said
am.
flattened, but then I thought that's not the word, so I then come up with flattered, which is more appropriate.
Well, we have a few listeners, subscribers who are interested in words and the etymology of words. And one of our subscribers, Ralphie Boy 25, he also has his own YouTube channel. And Mark Stevens has a YouTube channel called Mark's Station, where he talks about trains and bridges and lots of great stuff. But uh, Ralphie Boy 25 was commenting in an earlier episode about how the Black Sea got its name and the Red Sea got its name. So maybe some of y'all can go back and take a look at that. I sometimes drive around Dallas and they have these little boxes that they're made out of wood and they're on a stand, like kind of like a mailbox, and it's called the Little Library. And there's an association where you write to these people. I don't know, you give them $25 or something, and then they give you a number like your, Little Library Box 1004, and you get your little, tag, and then you put your library box in your yard, and then you just list it on your social media that there's this library box at the corner of Fitzhugh and Ross. And so people drive by and they put in two books, and maybe they take out a book, or maybe somebody had a DVD or a CD. Mainly it's books, but I was driving around and I chanced upon, I think I was going the wrong way. I mean, I thought I was supposed to take a left, but I took a right and kind of ended up going into this little cul-de-sac. And I saw a library box there. I was thinking, like, this is it's amazing. I just love these little synchronistic discoveries. So I got out of my car, and I always carry books with me that I want to give away or switch out. So I opened the box, and there was a book called Everything You Know Is Wrong: The Disinformation Guide to Secrets and Lies. And there's articles written by all these fabulous people. So I thought, wow, this is great. So I took that one out of the little library book, and I think I put in the book Cat in the Hat by Dr. Seuss, and I put in The Ugly Duckling, a little children's book. And then I got another book out of that box. It was called Exercising History, not as in, gymnastics, but as in like casting out spells, exorcising history, the Argentine theater under dictatorship. So we have another subscriber, Martin, and Martin is actually originally from Argentina. And his wife is both of them are very interested in synchronicity and Carl Jung. So I was pretty amazed to find this book, Everything You Know Is Wrong.
Well, now I'm interested.
There you
Maybe
go.
I should download PDF version and buy it off the Amazon. They sell those Kindle editions. Very convenient. You just pay and you get it in a minute. You don't have to wait for the hardcover.
Yes, and listen to this. This is it is a collection of essays, and it's edited by this fellow named Russ Kick, Russ, like in Russell or Russian. And his last name is Kick. I get a kick out of his name. But he dedicated his book to my grandmother, Aurora Kick, who nurtured my love of language, helping to turn it into the skills of writing and editing. And I just think that's, just a beautiful dedication to his grandmother. And we've talked before about grandmothers and how they continue to influence, even though we're adults now. Maybe some of our grandparents have passed on, but we're living in a time where there's news, fake news, lies, spies. It's just interesting how much information is out there, and we tend to get our news from different places. Where do you get your news from? What kind of channels or subscriptions? Where do you get your news?
I don't read any newspapers anymore.
Why?
I haven't read the newspaper, the paper-based newspaper for years. I don't know, probably because of the internet. It's more convenient. There are people who love hard copies. I prefer the tablet, sorry. All the newspapers, all the mass media are there, but I don't really, chase the news as I used to. I think, for instance, like CNN or BBC or any other media, even here domestically, I don't really trust them. I think they are, what's
skewed.
The word?
SKEWED, skewed, which means
yeah, and
tilted
there is
towards
another
certain
one. Anyway, you got me right. So lately I found also there is so many, if you go to the internet, you'll see so many news sites, and some of them, as you said, fakes, and some aren't. It's very hard to navigate. And somehow you have to apply the common sense to understand what is really going on. I don't know who rules or who governs this.
Well, Marshall McLuhan said the medium is the message. So who controls who controls the newspaper, who controls the printing press, who's the editor in chief? They're the ones. What their agenda is what they will publish. Now, I personally believe that hard copy is good. Because if you're sitting, let's suppose on a Sunday morning and you've got the New York Times or the Moscow Times or Chicago Tribune or Houston Chronicle, if you're sitting and you have a cup of coffee and maybe you have some background music on Bach or Beethoven or Vivaldi, I like Vivaldi, and you got the newspaper and you settle into a favorite chair. Maybe you have a cat that wanders by and sits near your legs, or you have a little blanket on your lap in the winter time. There's something very visceral, physical, about reading a newspaper and just turning the pages and looking at the photos and, oh my goodness, there's a crossword puzzle. Let me just pick up my pen. Work the crossword puzzle in pen. And I have a friend who lives here in Dallas who is the current owner of Vivian Watson, which is a high-end design store. And I met him at Whole Foods Highland Park. And I was wandering around, and at that time, one of our subscribers, David Anton, was employed there. And I saw this fellow with a real newspaper and a pen and a cup of coffee. And you can get coffee and sandwiches and stuff and sit in this little cafe area. And I saw him with a pen working at a crossword puzzle. And I just paused, because I talk to strangers all the time. A stranger is just a friend you haven't met yet. I go, "You're working a crossword puzzle." And he looked up at me. He had glasses on and kind of shaggy hair, a very interesting fellow wearing like a tweed jacket. He goes, "Well, yes, in fact, I am." I go, "And you're working it with pen?" He says, "Yes, I like to make to make a commitment to my choices. I thought, this is a person I need to meet. So he works crossword puzzles methodically. He does number 1 down, then number 2 down, then number 3 down, or what, he works it methodically. But I work crossword puzzles shotgun. Do you know what that means?
No. I mean, I have an idea, but do explain.
Well, let's suppose he has something he's already written it down, and then there's a cross near it, and the middle initial that he has in there is a U, and there's 2 open letters on the side of it. I know that word's got to be gun.
Okay.
So what I do is I take the clues from what's there and just work around them. So we occasionally, I was in the Whole Foods on Sundays because I lived about 4 blocks away at that time. I would be puttering around. He goes, would you like to do some crossword? I go, sure. So I would come over and he would say how interesting it was that I had that approach. And I said, I found it so interesting that you're so methodical. But he is trained as an architect. He's a very talented architect, went to the University of Texas in Austin. And he does fabulous drawings for just like very, very high-end accounts in Texas and in New York and Arizona. And, he's very much committed to design and to his principles. And, I admire him as a human being.
I've been drawing for some years now. And by the way, I liked how you said that the stranger is just a friend you have never met yet. I have to remember that. And anyway, I don't know how people can draw. I've been drawing, a few years ago when we met at Google Plus. And but still, that was such a simple and unsophisticated drawings. And some people they close their eyes or they keep them open, and they really draw what they imagine, and that fascinates me a lot.
Well, when I was in high school, I lived in Germany, and I took an art class, and we had this kind of sleazy art teacher who would take us on field trips on Saturday. And in Germany, there's no drinking age. So my best friend was a girl named Beverly, and she was so talented. She his name was, the guy's name was Martin. That was his last name. That's interesting because we have a Martin also. Okay, so anyhow, Mr. Martin was the art teacher, and if you wanted to go on a Saturday field trip, you got the field trip form. Your parents had to sign it. Parents drop you off at the school at 9 o'clock. Your parents come back and pick you up at 5 in the afternoon, or whenever the field trip is over. They sign a release form in case you fall down. That it's not his fault that you fell down on a cobblestone street. But Mr. Martin would take us on these field trips. So Bev and I lived on the same street. Her dad was a full colonel. My dad was a lieutenant colonel. And so we used to go on these field trips, which was great because we could drink and we could eat sandwiches, and we were like completely unsupervised. And it was great to be a teenager in Germany. But she could draw, she could just sit there and draw a tree with a bird sitting in it and the sky. And she knew how to shade the sky so the clouds look realistic. And she could draw like a cobblestone street with a little table on the side and a couple people sitting there drinking beer. She had such a great eye for design. And there's different elements in design. There's line and depth and color. There's 7 principles of design, but she was just so talented. And she was very unassuming and kind of quiet and had freckles. Anyhow, I was very serious, very, very serious. I've been too serious for too long. I think I was born serious. But I would just sit there and I sort of stare at things. I just glance over to her tablet. She'd already drawn the cobblestones and shading in the dang clouds. And I'm just thinking, what do I want to draw? And I just looked at the picture in front of me, the reality. And I thought, I like that one. There's 2 folding chairs at a cafe table, I'm going to try to draw those two chairs. But a folding chair is difficult to draw because you have to deal with negative space. So like I would get wrapped up in these like intellectual conversations uh, in my head, and she would say like, well, why don't you go ahead and start? We've been sitting there for like 8 minutes. She's already got a lot of stuff sketched out. I go, I'm just really trying to figure out what to start. And she goes, just start anywhere. And she was much more kind of in the zone. She would just sit there and get her pencils out and just like start to work. And I had to like sit there and decide. And I don't want this pencil. It needs to be softer lead. No, I want a different tablet. So it would always take me like 15 minutes to like put the pencil to the paper. But my mother was really great. She signed me up for some private art classes through the officers club. There were these different things you could sign up your kids for. So there was a drawing class, and I remember my mother and I went. I think it was taught by a German woman. She was like so amazing. I wanted to grow up and be her. She was kind of dressed, I guess you call it kind of like a beatnik. That's what they would call it back then. Like black leggings and black turtleneck, and she had like a cigarette holder and all this art on her wall. And I kept thinking like, well, that's what I want to be when I grow up, this woman. But we would go to her apartment, and maybe there would be like, 3 moms and like 4 students, and we just sit around on her amazing furniture, and like she had a cat wandering by. And I remember that she cleared off a table, and then she set on the table one chair. So most people, they were doing like still life, like bowls with fruits in it. Like, how many dang pictures do we need of like bowls of fruit? But she put this folding chair on the top of a table, and she said, today we're going to draw the absence of the chair. Now remember, there was no drugs involved in this activity, but I was just sitting there like, in high school, like, okay, we're going to draw the absence of the chair. And then she just took her hand and she went to the chair and she said, look, between these 2 slots, that's like a rectangle. She traced it on the chair, and see down here where the legs are crossed, those are 2 triangles. So she actually taught me the concept of negative space. And then, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks later, I was on a field trip with the art teacher at school. And like I said, my friend Bev could just sit there and just start drawing, and she knew how to shade. She just had so much innate talent. It was like amazing. Well, just one more thing about Bev. We grew apart. We wrote letters for a while. Then we grew up and became adults. And I don't know, maybe like about 10 years ago, I kept thinking, like, I wonder whatever happened to her. And so I searched around online. And do you know what she grew up to be?
What?
Okay, she has amazing ability in art. And now it's like, 20 years later. What was her profession?
Designer? No.
Yeah, she's a medical
Art teacher.
illustrator. She did illustrations for medical textbooks.
Oh, she draws human's body.
The medical illustrations in the when the medical students look at their textbook, it's not just the stomach, but the stomach is spliced, and we see this muscle and that muscle, and where the bile drips out, and the esophagus. So she was a medical illustrator, and actually, I mean, you have to be good to make money in art. It's not easy to make money in the world of art. But I thought, wow, she's a medical illustrator. What am I doing? It's like, oh, I'm a teacher. Okay.
And you said negative space, and somehow hit me. I just imagined the chair. I mean, imagine no chair, just the space around it, and the shape of the space. I don't know, around the chair or shade.
Exactly.
I don't know. Maybe I should try to do that too.
Yeah, and like what you can do is just like draw the space around it. And let's suppose that you feel that the space around it is blue and green, then you can just shade. You can use I would use colored pencils and just shade it in. We have another subscriber, Lydia, who lives in Germany, and she when she was younger, she was a dancer, a professional. I know it sounds strange, kind of an exotic belly dancer, and like gave lessons and took lessons and was quite well known, very very talented woman. And then this, that, and the other happened, and she got out of dancing. And I guess I've known Lydia for, I don't know, 5, 6 years. She lives in Ulm, Germany, I think. And she does digital art. So she sits at a computer and works out her idea and then just does her art digitally. And also another one of our subscribers, I mentioned him, Mark Stevens, who has his channel, Mark's Station, YouTube videos about trains all over the Great Lakes area of the United States. He got sort of inspired, I think, by a couple other artists that we know in common, and he decided he was going to try to do digital art. And I think I mentioned to you a year or two ago that he had seen in his dream, this girl appeared to him in his dream, and he was very fascinated by this girl in a dream. And I said, well, did you know her? Is she somebody you know from the past? Or, has she shown up in the real world? And he goes, no, but, just like stuck in his mind. And he said, well, maybe I'll try to draw her. So he, about 2 years ago, started drawing this girl. I think her name was Alyssa, Alyssa. He gave her a name. And then he has, about every 2 months, he does a little drawing of Alyssa, and he uses digital art. So sometimes Alyssa is sitting on her bed with a cat and a little red and black blanket. Sometimes she's standing by a window, and he started superimposing, put on the background a real photo of the trees and looking out of his living room window. And then he'll like superimpose upon that the digital drawing of Alyssa as if she's standing in his front room. And I would call it like photo montage. But anyhow, what are we talking about?
The subjects of Germany come up very often in our conversations. I don't know why, probably because we have shared some experience about it or something else. But you said Martin. I thought Martin is not a German name. No, probably Irish or I don't know. But then again, I skipped to Brother Grimm's fairy tales. I think they were Germans. And I know my mind wandered aimlessly, and all these Sleeping Beauty and Cinderella fairy tales came to mind, and then I thought, what about Red Riding Hood? And then that probably wasn't written by Brothers Grimm. And while you were talking, I was listening to you and simultaneously thinking, what was I thinking about? I don't know what I was thinking.
You were thinking maybe we should do an episode on fairy tales. I mean, I would love to do that. Also, we have several different writers. The one that most people know would be the Brothers Grimm, Grimm. And then there's also Hans Christian Andersen, who is also a writer of fairy tales. And then we have Aesop, who the tortoise and the rabbit, they're, having their little race. Is it better to go slow and steady or to race out there like a rabbit? But yeah, we have some German. I lived in Germany, and I don't know if you have visited Germany, but there's lots of trains in Germany. There's lots of art in Germany, and there's a lot of different synchronistic connections through Patroma therapy. I had mentioned that Martin, who originally was from Argentina, is living up in Oregon, and April, who is a florist, is also interested in synchronicity. And I don't know if Martin has his own channel or not, but he's some kind of like wizard or Jungian therapist or something like that. But I do think that fairy tales contain some truth, and you might say everything you know is wrong, because we think, oh well, I better go to Google to find out how to do this, or I better Google this to figure it out. Like we would never, most people would never think, let me read a fairy tale and see if there's any wisdom in the fairy tale. I mean, I have a friend that lives here in Dallas, and he wanted to wake up earlier in the morning. So, I mean, I would think, well, why don't you put on an alarm clock? Or why don't you set your phone? He said, well, I'm going to Google it. And I kept thinking that was such a ridiculous waste of time. Like, if you just want to wake up, set an alarm clock, set the button on your phone. But, he found me to be very critical. That made him mad. And then I also made him mad because I said, I can wake myself up. He goes, what do you mean? I go, I can I used to do this. Tell myself what time I need to wake up. I used to practice this. Like, I want to get up before 7. I need to be up before 7. I need to be up before 7. I need to be up before 7. And I wasn't using a phone all the time. Like right now, my phone is always with me everywhere. So I didn't have like blue light from the phone, destroying my brain. And I would just put my hands on my stomach and lay on my back and drift off to sleep. And somehow I slept peacefully through the night. This was some years ago. And I would wake up and it would be like 10 to 7, 7 minutes to 7. And I just wrote it down in a little journal just to see how crazy it was. But I'm not doing that now. Now I wake up when the sun comes through this back window and I just look at the back window. I go, oh, there's some light out there. It must be morning. What do you do to wake up in the morning?
Nothing. If you sleep with the windows open and you don't have any shades, and when the light comes in, you just wake up.
Yeah,
And
I think that's called circadian rhythms, right?
I don't know. Maybe. Hey, is Mark okay? I remember if I tried to record an episode a few years ago, and we did record the episode. I remember him. He was interested in trains and had lots to tell about them, and I was kind of envy because when I was a little kid, I was interested in car models, little cars, but never actually made it to about when I was grown up already, and my fascination somehow has gone. But Mark is still
Mark is good.
fully emerged.
Well, we're now here in April of 2023, but 2 years ago, we have 4 different seasons of 25 episodes each of Petroma Therapy. And Mark was actually our first guest on Petroma Therapy, and he is quite a knowledgeable fellow, and he's a very good speaker. And Mark's doing fine. I actually invited Mark to come to Dallas last year, somehow randomly or providentially or synchronistically. I opened up my LinkedIn account, which I never go to. I used to use it all the time about like 10 years ago, but I opened up my LinkedIn account and somebody has invited me to this train conference that's being held in Dallas. And I kept thinking, well, that's kind of weird. Like, I haven't even looked at my LinkedIn account in over a year. And there's a whole bunch of messages from different people I used to teach with or some former student or something. And I get this message from George Blount. And it's like, we would love to have you come to our conference. It's going to be held at the Hotel Zaza or something. And, may I send you more information? It was just so weird because I was at the time, frequently talking with Mark through the world of MeWe about what he was doing. And so I said, Mark, so I had his phone number. I said, can I call you? He goes, yeah. I said, you're not going to believe this, but somehow I've been invited to this train conference. He goes, well, where is it? I go, it's in Dallas. I go, I said, why don't you get a train ticket and ride the Amtrak down to Dallas, and you can stay in Dallas for like 5 days. I have a couple guy friends. You can go sleep on their couch, and we can go to the train conference. He goes, well, I don't know them. I go, well, do you want to go to a hotel and spend money? He goes, no. But anyhow, so I talked to George, and like, I don't know, the tickets were like $350 for a ticket. But if you wanted to go to the preview party, it was free. So I go, Mark, I talked to George. He's going to let us set up a table, and we're going to tell people we're writing a book about trains. He goes, we are writing a book about trains. I go, well, just, go to a playground and look around for money on the playground, get a ticket and come to Dallas. But what happened was we ended up not going because they moved it from Hotel Zaza to this other huge convention center because the pandemic had canceled the train convention for 2 years. And it wasn't just a train convention, it was like a Southwest regional train convention, which was full of, okay, I'm just going to say this, it was just full of men. It was men that, mainly men, politicians, lawyers, landowners, ranchers, cotton producers, oil men, people in economists. I thought, holy moly, let me just go, even if Mark couldn't come. And it was right up off of Highway 75, off of 635. And I was going to go, and I talked to George, and I said, hey, can I just have like a little side table? And I'm going to, like Mark was going to provide all the historic information. I was going to talk about trains and literature and music. So I was going to talk about, so many famous novels that have trains in them, and then also train songs like by Johnny Cash and all these other people. And then he goes, oh yeah, that would be great. Yeah, we'll set you up. Like, what size table do you need? And just like everything just kept going right. And then this one person that was going to drive me there ended up going out of town or something. And I thought, or let me ask you this. What do you think, how many people are going to be at a cocktail party of a train convention in Dallas? Just tell me a number. How many people you think are going to be there?
Couple of hundred.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Maybe, 300-400 people. There were like 3,500 people registered. That means those MFers paid $350 to go to the convention, and they were staying in these big hotels, and they all had cars. And then I looked at I got some of the last minute directions. They had closed off 2 exits on the freeway. So they were also in conjunction with TxDOT, so like the highway system, and they had police that had blocked off, like at a funeral. I don't know what they do where you live, but for funerals, you get a police escort and they'll stop traffic so the hearse can go by. So this convention was so big that the Texas State Highway Department provided police to shut off 2 or 3 exits. And it was held in this huge facility in several buildings. And you couldn't park near the building. You had to valet from some dang shuttle. It was so big that I began to feel somewhat intimidated. And besides, I didn't have any new business cards. And I tried to get a couple friends to go with me. I go, can you go with me to this? Like, there's free drinks. And this one person said, I'm just going to stay home and drink here. But it was huge, and it takes place in April. It's probably just passed again this year. And I just told Mark, I said, just keep writing your book. So he and I are continuing to develop material for this book, and I like the title Mark Station. So when we put our book out, it's going to be called Mark Station. Written by Mark Stevens II, and contributions by me and editing by me. So, yeah, like That's a lot of people talking about trains and land and politics and economics and
You
wow.
mentioned a convention. I thought that, yeah, and that you were given a business card, or maybe you've given your business card. Are they still valid and relevant nowadays? Because I haven't used one. You just usually
Yes.
use email. But there are so beautiful business cards made, like with the laser engraving and stuff. I thought I would, would have made myself few things, but
Yeah, and also if we
let's
get
put it up.
if we'll design it and then we'll get like a laminated plastic thing that we can put on the side of our cars and we drive around and we can get like a tax write-off because it's a business car.
Hey, you can make a pathromotherapy business card, or I don't know, sticker, bumper sticker, or something else,
Of
and
course.
drive
Well,
around the Texas this.
well, yeah. Like we're going to mail it to Mark, and Mark's going to drive around Minnesota, and we're going to mail it to Doug, and we're going to mail it to Lydia.
We can mail it. Actually, you can mail it all around the world because it's not heavy, it's small, and I'm sure you can send it to wherever you want.
Well, actually, a couple of years ago, I have a business here in Dallas, and it was originally called Goretti Design. So it's a G and a D. And then this friend of mine, Alex, and I went. He found a company online that designs business cards. You have to answer like 8 questions, and they design it for you, and you choose two, and then you pay for one. So I said I want it to look like Coco Chanel. It should be black. Needs to be I wanted it to look like this Coco Chanel thing, and then I wanted a certain script, and I wanted a certain size for the letters, and then I wanted something specific on the back. I wanted my name in the left corner as the owner, and then Alex put his name in the right corner. I go, well, what do you want your title to be? He goes, well, I don't want you to write down Art Helmper. I go, what do you want me to write? King of Art? He said, well, you don't have to be sarcastic. So we just wrote Director of Marketing. But if you have a business card in Dallas, if you don't have a business card, that means you're no one. You can't even afford $30 for a damn business card. People don't take you seriously. So in Dallas, in the art, music, real estate, land, cotton, political world, you need a business card.
Yeah, I remember that back in the day, like business cards were the beginning and the end of any relations or networking and sharing contact information. But lately, I don't know, it's so digitalized and
But people are still
much
into
more.
paper. People are still into books, and people still like to read newspapers. Like people are hungry for physical contact. We don't want to just be like a disembodied being, you know. I mean,
I
I
don't
went
know.
to this what?
No, right.
I went to this art party in Uptown about 4 or 5 years ago, and it was at this Hotel Zaza. This like have beautiful art. Like everybody smells great, looks great. They stay there from around the world. Just like thousands of beautiful women and amazing men. It's like there are no ugly people there, as I say. So anyhow, I went to this party. It was an art party, and I decided I'm only going to take. I wore this like long light green paisley dress with little tiny pieces of purple, and I don't know if I wore my Stetson or if I had my hair tied up or something, but it's like a roll up in my beat up Toyota and hand the keys to the valet, and he like kind of rolls his eyes. I go, "Thank you, my good man." Drives the Toyota away, and I thought, I'm only bringing 2 business cards. I'm going to bring one for business and one for pleasure. So I thought I would find one person there that I was interested in as a human being. Then I would find one person that I wanted to give my card to that would be related to the art world. Okay, like I could have used like probably like 50 cards. The people there were fabulous. I'm standing there. I see this tall guy in a dark suit with no tie, just really tall, had like cool hair. I kept thinking, well, he's pretty amazing. And then I'm standing there and someone else is talking and this guy's next to me. I'm just sort of standing there. He goes, "Hi there." I go, "Hi." He goes, "Do you know who I am?" I go, I don't know, your guy's standing there holding a drink. What are you drinking? He goes, vodka cranberry. I go, yeah, I don't like vodka. He goes, you don't know who I am? I go, no, I don't know. You're some guy standing there holding a drink. He goes, I'm the Bachelor. I'm on The Bachelor. I go, oh, congratulations. So he was fascinated by the fact that I didn't know. He goes, well, do you know what The Bachelor is? I go, yeah, it's a TV program that like shallow, empty, meaningless people watch. He goes, wow, thanks for just like flattening me. He goes, what are you drinking? I said, drinking a bourbon smash. He goes, wow, you really don't know who I am. I go, no, but you know, you have a nice jawline. And I just walked away from him. I kind of enjoyed that. And then I went over and I thought, well, this is just all full of idiots. Maybe I'll just go. And then I walked by this other fellow. His name is Arturo Moreno. So there's an older fellow named Arturo Romano. Arturo. Oh my gosh, I'm blocking. Okay, well, anyhow, there's this one, Moreno. He sells real estate. And you know the commercials of the guy who, oh, never, let me go there. So anyhow, I kind of walked by. He goes, oh, hello there. I go, hello. He said, I saw you looking at me. I go, oh, okay, I saw you looking at me. He goes, but you were looking at me? I go, yeah. He goes, well, could I get your number? I go, well, what are you going to do with it? He goes, well, maybe I'd call you. I go, well, what would we talk about? Why don't you just tell me right now? And then some other guy was standing there going like, God, this place is just full of these women that are just like kicking everyone's balls. And I said, excuse me? So then the guy just wandered off with me and he said, no, you seem like really interesting. Anyhow, he has a television show called Noche de Media, and he's a judge for Hispanic beauty pageants, and he had his own television program. And then I gave him my card, and then we kind of started talking, and I said, well, would you like to meet? He goes, well, could we meet sometime? I go, okay, well, would you like to drink coffee? He says he doesn't do coffee. I go, well, I don't. He goes, well, where do you live? I go, I live around White Rock Lake. He goes, well, he lives in like Frisco or someplace. I go, well, I'll go north of Highway 635. So anyhow, business cards are necessary.
Maybe it's just me who's getting digitalized more than others, and but the rest of us or of you are still like the physical contact. Well, when the pandemic started, they told us to wash your hands and never touch your face, and I never touched my face for like I don't know, a month, and the physical contacts make me uncomfortable now. Although I've always loved it. Hug or no, I wasn't too shy to show affection with pat on the back. But now it makes me uncomfortable. I keep a social distance, although it's getting a little bit closer now than it was a year ago. Yeah.
But what about your face?
Else, I don't know.
You didn't touch your face for a month? What does that mean?
You didn't have to. It was absolutely necessary not to touch your face because COVID-19 infection could somehow, be transmitted from your hands or tip of your fingers to whatever part of the face you touched. I don't know. It was such an idiocy at the beginning. There were so many stupid rules.
I would like to refer you and our audience back to the title of this episode. Everything you know is wrong. So I have a daughter.
Is that how our episode? Okay, sorry.
That's the name of this episode. Everything you know is wrong, with the word "wrong" capitalized or in bold. So anyhow, I sell art. I'm a writer, and I didn't want to go out because everything was closed, and I kept sitting here thinking, well, how am I going to make money? So I was just doing online editing and online resumes and online writing. So I made money, online. But I'm talk to my daughter and I go, well, what am I going to do? She goes, well, just wash your hands and, try not to go to too many different places. I go, well, everything it says on the news is like says, don't touch your face, like don't do this, and don't talk to people, and don't breathe, and wear your mask, but wear 2 masks. She goes, well, all that's just hype. I go, well, how do you know that? She goes, well, remember when I was in medical school and I did infectious diseases, so I had to go into rooms that were like highly, highly contagious. And she said, I just wore my hazmat suit. I said, you have a hazmat suit? You didn't tell me you were going into rooms that were infectious. She goes, well, I didn't show you my hazmat suit because you would like freak out. I go, I'm freaking out now. But I just remember that I decided when I would get my groceries, I'd bring them upstairs and I would throw the bags away, and I had like a solution of bleach in a spray bottle, bleach and water, and I would spray down the cans, I would spray down the bottles, I would wash the vegetables, peel the vegetables, I would walk in and wash my hands with soap, and I didn't have I didn't keep the trash in the house. I would immediately take it outside. But we keep learning more and more things about the pandemic, and there's a new variant. It's called what, Ancanthus or something, or Archaeopteryx.
I stopped following. I know there is one, but I don't.
Are you touching your face now?
To the excess. Do you think there is a difference between? I mean, I know there is difference between being right and being wrong, but is there any difference between not being wrong and being right, for instance?
That's not a question.
Right? Or
what's the question?
That's a rhetorical question.
Can you put the question in a question form? Is there a difference between right and wrong? Is there a demarcation?
Am I doing it wrong? Am I doing it wrong
what?
Or doing it right?
Touching your face?
I don't know. What is wrong with you or right with me? Am I wrong or am I right?